Hey there, internet friends. Welcome to another episode of That D Plus Show. Class is in session for the only show from that nerdy site that lets you know what kind of quality to expect right from the name. I'm your host, Trevor Starkey, and each week we dive into a different Disney Plus offering and discuss its history, how it holds up today, and our general impressions. If you like the show, we would love it if you like, subscribe, rate, review, share the podcast with your friends, all that fun stuff. Joining me as always, Cameron Abbott. How you doing, Cameron?
Hey, what's going on, everybody?
What's going on is today we are wrapping up our Daredevil Born Again talk with a look now back at the full season of Daredevil Born Again. We previously did the first couple episodes of the season, and that was episode 256, if you missed that. And then also I had done a solo episode of the first episode of the Netflix Daredevil back on That D Plus Show, episode 144, when that all came to the mix. So we're going to talk all season 1 stuff today, full spoiler stuff, but we probably will focus on the latter half of the season rather than especially the first couple episodes, which we already covered at depth. But just as a reminder, that is episodes Heaven's Half Hour, Optics, The Hollow of His Hand, Six Semper Systema, With Interest, Excessive Force, Art for Art's Sake, Isle of Joy, and Straight to Hell. Why do we pick it? Because it's the newest MCU thing that is done and dusted, and basically the first thing to kick off a very busy little flurry of activity here for the next few weeks. As we've got Doctor Who now back up and going. We've got Andor starting next week. So lots of kind of the Disney Plus staples to revisit here.
We literally just had a conversation about scheduling conflicts with what do we do next?
Yeah.
So
history lesson. These episodes were originally released March 4th, 2025 through April 15th. They had a runtime ranging from 42 minutes to 1 hour. Notably, the premiere and the finale episodes were both about an hour long. In the MCU TV timeline of things, we had What If Season 2 back at the end of 2023, Echo at the beginning of 2024, Agatha All Along the end of 2024, What If Season 3 end of 2024, Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man kicked things off this year on the animated side of things. Then we had Daredevil Born Again here. Up next is slated to be Ironheart starting in June. Then Eyes of Wakanda slated for August. Marvel Zombies in October, and Wonder Man in December.
Man, that's right. Wonder Man's a thing.
That is still slated to be a thing. Yeah, they've shown live action trailer things and everything about it. Yeah.
It's so weird because normally in TV shows about my bad, my phone is not on mute. I should make sure of that right away. Okay. Sorry about that. Apparently my phone decided just to go through the entire mute cycle and go back to be on. It's weird because normally in shows where it's about making stuff in Hollywood, Wonder Man sounds like a project that's say it's a show about actors. They're I'm going out for the Wonder Man show or something like that. That's how I imagine it. So whenever they were the writer strike shut down the Wonder Man production, in my head, it's that's got to be code for something else, right? Nope, it's Wonder Man. That's a thing.
Yeah, it's especially because what I want to say, I believe if it's the character I think it is, there was an Easter egg that ended up getting scrapped in Guardians of the Galaxy 2 that was going to have Nathan Fillion as Wonder Man. Basically, he was on a poster as Wonder Man in the background of a shot because of his friendship with James Gunn. But yeah, that basically got scrapped, and eventually, I forget the actor's name. He was in Watchmen. He's going to be the Wonder Man character.
Oh, interesting. Okay, yeah. I'm looking at the Wikipedia right now, and he's cool. Yeah. I loved him in Watchmen.
Yeah.
So, well, shoot. This actually might be. It could be good.
Yeah, it has
Ben Kingsley,
a returning Ben Kingsley as Trevor Slattery, trying to rejoin Hollywood and stuff like that. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, yes. Okay, this could be good. Okay.
Yeah, I think they're gonna lean into some fun with it. Yahya Abdul Mateen II being the character who's playing, or the actor who's playing Wonder Man.
Ed Harris is in it? That's crazy. Okay.
I hadn't seen that.
Yeah, he's the agent for Simon Wonder Man.
Cool.
So shoot, this could be good.
Yep. Our roll call, the who's who of the Daredevil Born Again series here. We touched on some of this last time, so I'll kind of gloss over little bits here and there, but we do have a lot of new names for the back half of the series. Aaron Moorhead and Justin Benson directed the first episode, as well as the episodes 8 and 9. They previously had worked on Moon Knight and Loki. Michael Cuesta previously we talked about directed episode 2. He also directed episode 3, having also worked on projects like 6 Feet Under, Dexter, Homeland, and Dopesick. Then some new names on the directing side. Jeffrey Nachmanoff directed episodes 4 and 5, having previously also worked on Homeland, Chicago Fire, and Lovecraft Country. And David Boyd directed episodes 6 and 7, with previous credits including Friday Night Lights, Men of Certain Age, and The Walking Dead. Our writers, we notably discussed last time that Dario Scardapine wrote episode 1. He is also credited on episodes 8 and 9 of this later batch, having previously written on The Punisher and Tom Clancy's Jack Ryan, and he was notoriously the new showrunner of this series, having taken over for Matt Corman and Chris Ord, who are still credited on episode 2, having been the original showrunners and also having worked on a series called Covert Affairs. New writers in the mix. Jill Blankenship wrote episodes 3 and 7. She previously had worked on The Last Ship, Arrow, and a series called Naomi. David Feige, who's not related to that Feige, or doesn't seem to be at least, wrote episode 4, I pulled his credits because one of them just jumps out to me as like, well, that seems weird. He's written for a series called Raising the Bar, The Firm, In Contempt, For Life, and Drop Dead Diva. And you might catch that a theme there is legal stuff, except for Drop Dead Diva, because he is a lawyer by trade, actually.
Oh, okay, cool.
Who dabbles in writing. But yeah, then there's this Drop Dead Diva project that's like in the midst of his writing credits. I'm like, that seems weird. That one of these things is not like the others. One of these things is what? Jesse Wigatow wrote for episodes 4 and 8. With miscellaneous credits going back to 1999, and they are also the writer of the upcoming Tron Ares film that got a trailer recently. Grain Godfrey wrote episode 5, having also written for The Tomorrow People, Arrow, The Flash, and DC Legends of Tomorrow.
47 episodes of The Flash. Gosh,
47 episodes of The Flash, yep, and 20 episodes of Legends of Tomorrow. Thomas Wong wrote episode 6 with various miscellaneous credits going back to 2010. And Heather Belson wrote episode 9 alongside the Dan Scardapine, having previously also written on Black Sails, American Gods, The Walking Dead, and The Sandman. Our cast of characters we of course talked about in the last episode. Charlie Cox returning as Matt Murdock / Daredevil, who I will always give some love to for Stardust. He's also in The Theory of Everything. He's been Daredevil since 2015, up to and including the Spider-Man No Way Home and She-Hulk cameos. This being a wildly different Daredevil than the one that appeared in She-Hulk.
Yeah.
And they just absolutely never acknowledged it, which is just weird to me. But then, yeah, here you have Daredevil Born Again here. Vincent D'Onofrio, also once again returning as Wilson Fisk. Having been an actor in projects like Full Metal Jacket, Ed Wood, Men in Black, Law & Order, Criminal Intent, Jurassic World, and Dishonored 2. He's, of course, been Wilson Fisk / the Kingpin since Daredevil in 2015. Margarita Levieva is Heather Glenn here, having previously worked on projects like Adventureland, The Lincoln Lawyer, Revenge, and The Acolyte. Camar de los Reyes is Hector Ayala, who we talked about previously, and basically is also written off almost the very next episode. Previously worked on One Life to Live, Call of Duty Black Ops 2, and one of his final credits, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, before he sadly passed away of cancer in late 2023. Nikki M. James as Kirsten McDuffie, the lawyer partner, having been previously worked on The Good Wife and Severance. Clark Johnson as Cherry, having been in The Wire and Alpha House. Janiyah Walton as BB Ulrich in Black AF, Never Have I Ever, and Candy Cane Lane. Michael Gandolfini as Daniel Blake, The Many Saints of Newark, and Bob Marley, One Love. And then a few new names that I've added in here because they had more prominent roles as the series went on. Ayelet Zurur returns as Vanessa Fisk, reprising her role from the original show. She's also in Munich, Angels and Demons, and Man of Steel. Artie Frushan is Buck Cashman, aka Fisk's bodyguard fixer man, previously having worked in Carnival Row and House of the Dragon. Sabrina Guevara as Sheila Rivera, aka Fisk's chief of staff, previously in projects like X-Men: Days of Future Past. Hunter Doohan as Bastion / Muse, is in the series Wednesday, and John Bernthal reprising his role as Frank Castle from the Daredevil / The Punisher series, also having been in projects like The Wolf of Wall Street, The Accountant, Ghost Recon, I think Ghost Recon, some Ghost Ubisoft Tom Clancy game, and then a few other credits that we talked about in the first time around ended up not being too much or more kind of glorified cameos. Wilson Bethel did return later in the season as Benjamin Poindexter / Bullseye, reprising his role from the Netflix show, as well also in Heart of Dixie. Deborah Nan Wool, returning, of course, as Karen Page, starts out in that first episode and then ends up coming back a little bit in the finale, having been in True Blood, Catch 44, reprising her role as Karen Page from the Daredevil verse. And then she's also in God of War Ragnarok. And Eldon Henson has a notable appearance in the first episode as Foggy Nelson, before he tragically dies very abruptly. And of course, he was also in The Mighty Ducks, Idle Hands, The Butterfly Effect, and The Hunger Games Mockingjay. A couple little bits of trivia that we didn't talk about first time around. The biggest, I would say most notable one that I didn't highlight the first time around because he hadn't made his appearance yet, is that John Bernthal originally declined to return as Frank Castle in the kind of original version of the show because he disagreed with the writer's plans for the character. But when the series was retooled with Dario Scardapina as showrunner, after the strikes and everything, Bernthal and Scardapine had worked together on The Punisher, and Scardapine convinced Bernthal to return. Bernthal said, quote, "They really brought me into the conversation. We really got specific about where Frank is psychologically, where Frank's at physically," end quote. And then, of course, we also have a post-credits scene at the end of the season teasing the reported Punisher standalone special that will be coming up, most likely as like a little standalone Disney Plus feature one-off to kind of bridge the gap here between Daredevil Born Again Season 1 and Daredevil Born Again Season 2. So yeah, that's what I got for you. Cam, what did you think of the series as it continued on?
Unfortunately, despite a very strong start, I would say this show ends up being good, but not great.
Okay.
I think that this show is, man, I finished it last night and I told you, I was like, yeah, cause I like it. I like it. I think that there's so much of this that's really, really good. There are scenes that I think are just really high level acting, writing, just scene setup. It's dramatic. It's tense. There's some points where I get shivers down my spine. Like, it can be that good. And then there are other parts where it does not feel like it's been well put together. Apparently the task force of the police, that the anti-vigilante squad, is apparently 800 people strong. There's just a lot of logistical, I mean,
only 800 New York corrupt cops. That would actually surprise me.
That's fair. That's fair. No, I mean, like, a lot of the things that we got hinted at or played with that I was hoping would be bigger. Like, we have Hector Io's murder happen in episode 3 after he's out. And it's set up to be like, whoa, the Punisher, but we know it's not the Punisher because the Punisher wouldn't do that. We know that a corrupt cop who cosplays and like, you know,
Who has co-opted the
who's
Punisher.
co-opted the Punisher idea, is the one responsible for it. There's the payoff to that is so impactless. Like there's so little feeling of impact for what should have been a righteous moment of like, it was him. Like there's a whole thing that happens like the last episode and it doesn't come together. There's so many things about like things that I wanted to hit harder just didn't hit as hard as I wanted them to. And then there was, on the flip side of that, you have just excellent moment choreography for a lot of action scenes, hits hard. The apartment fight with the Punisher and Daredevil versus the corrupt cops I love the choreography of it. I love the chaoticness of that scene, where there's struggle and because, you know, Daredevil's been shot twice, once in the side and once in the shoulder, both on the same side. So he's fighting even in worse shape.
It's an interesting balancing act because he's fighting, trying to keep non-lethal stuff. Frank is fucking killing everybody. So basically Daredevil is just setting them up and Frank is knocking them down. And then Daredevil's like, no, God damn it, I have to fight against what Frank's doing and against these guys.
And then that moment of like, oh, well now Daredevil should want to kill this guy. And instead the whole like, no, I'm better. Like the fight doesn't come, like the internal fight doesn't come through as much as I would have liked it to. And I think that it has to do with framing and time. Like how much time they have to play with that scene in that moment just isn't very long. And then a grenade goes off, a couple grenades, I guess, go off and like blow the hell out of that place. There's a lot that like I said, there's a lot like, and it's crazy because it's not like I can be like, well, this scene I can tell I didn't like the writing for this scene. There are some scenes where it's like, oh, this is a really great part of that scene. And the follow-up to that is not great. I think episode 8 might end up being up there as being one of my favorites of it, though, because just about everything at that ballroom, the black and white ball or the black and white gala, whatever it is, it's such a demonstration of power and authority and feels too real, almost too real considering our political climate right now.
Sure.
A corrupt mayor of New York City with a bunch of corrupt cops. Oh man, imagine the fantasy of that. But it really also comes down to feelings of like tension of what do you do when the most powerful man in the city is a corrupt monster? I feel like they did not there's no substantial payoff to Wilson Fisk's like semi-heel turn with Vanessa and being like, yeah, it was all so we could do this whole thing with the free port and stuff. Like that doesn't pay off as well as I would have liked it to. Yeah, and the thing is, normally I would point to like a lot of times with Marvel shows on Disney Plus, feels like half measures or they didn't go far enough or they didn't delve far enough. And here I just don't like, sometimes I look at a scene and I'm like, oh, you got all you were going to get out of it. And then it just kept going. Or, oh, you got, some of the middle episodes definitely feel this way. One episode that doesn't feel this way, but that feels like pretty solid is the standalone, bottle episode of The Bank. Mm-hmm. That also feels a little jarring compared to the rest of the series. Because it's so self-contained. But then you have like stuff like Muse. I'm guessing you had a hard time with the Muse stuff, like with the like, because his stuff was pretty like. I mean,
yeah. So just kind of my broad overview thoughts.
Sorry, that's my overview thoughts though.
We talked in the first couple episodes how like, oh, they did a pretty good job. Like there was a lot of backstage like news about this show kind of coming out of. Brand new showrunner came in after a whole bunch of stuff had already been shot, and basically like the whole first episode is pretty much brand new stuff, and then really the last couple episodes here are brand new. But in those first couple episodes, they seem to do a pretty good job of like seamlessly tying whatever the two ideas that the different shows had. I thought that really started to fall apart throughout, and you could very clearly see where the seams were and how this whole thing had been like Frankenstein together, with like the Muse stuff and the more like court-based stuff
Yeah,
being
it was.
the central thrust of the original idea of the show, and then all of this like Fisk, power play and the task force and all that stuff really seeming to be like, oh, that's where people got thrown in, and like Poindexter coming back. And yeah, I was not a fan of the show as it went on, but there would be like some highlights. Like, yeah, I really liked the bottle episode in the bank, while also feeling like this is from a completely different show.
Oh yeah. That was a tough time too, because like you can tell, like you said, the seams are apparent right there. But yeah, I think like the Muse stuff, it felt like the Muse stuff could have been way better fleshed out and way better done. Court stuff, I'm glad they kept it brief because I felt like that was a good contained arc for what was going on. Episode 2 and 3 were like their own self-contained thing as far as like the arc of like the White Tiger trial arc.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I mean, the biggest thing I really liked about Daredevil, the lawyer side of things, ended up being that that conversation with the guy he had who was just trying to get parole or get off on a crappy little shoplifting charge.
Yeah.
Like the couple conversations he has with people in that sequence, both with like the law clerk basically negotiating down all that stuff, and then with the client himself and being like they're willing to spend infinitely more money to put me in jail for this than they are to feed me and prevent the issue in the first place. And that being a pivotal moment for Matt in the season of like, yeah, the system isn't doing what it should do. And like he talks later about like, we're just babysitting chaos. Like the things we're doing this the right way aren't helping. So, that being a big thing that leads him back to the vigilante lifestyle. I think there was too much of this that was like by design, he's put away the suit. He's not Daredevil. So we don't really see Daredevil a lot in the middle part of the season. And that makes for a very uninteresting Daredevil show. It's the kind of thing that, while I like Iron Man 3, I understand people's complaints about Iron Man 3 being like, this isn't an Iron Man movie, it's a Tony Stark movie kind of thing. It's like,
for sure.
Yeah, but I mean, he is Iron Man, as he often says. And so it's the same kind of thing. Like, yeah, we do see like glimpses of Daredevil pop out in that, but with it being so heavy on that. And then, yeah, just like I'm like, this being a very dour show and like nobody's getting any kind of happiness in this show makes it a real tough watch on a week-to-week basis, especially when it is hitting so close to home on the real world around us and shit. That was not fun, and it certainly got into like the Muse stuff didn't bother me as much, because I thought a lot of the Muse stuff was like, okay, it's people hooked up to a machine and he's just kind of like letting their blood. It for me, it was much more the very visceral and violent physical acts, like, breaking an arm, the wrong way, or breaking a leg the wrong way, or Kingpin crushing a guy's head in like a melon.
That was
like,
was that rough for
you?
you?
The fact that they legit showed all of that instead of like cutting away or something like that. I was like, yeah, I don't know if I'm going to come back for Born Again season 2.
That's fair.
Because it's just too violent of a show for my personal taste, and it wasn't the escape that I wanted to be. It's when it's all Empire Strikes Back and there's no feeling of hope, like it doesn't make me want to engage with the show. Like I want these characters to get some wins, and that barely happens in here. So as much fun as it might be to have Daredevil, partner up with Miss Marvel's dad for a episode in a bank, and as much as I might like the little that the bank episode in particular, the bank robber very much reminding me of like a Die Hard type of villain.
Yeah.
It's like he was very Die Hard with a Vengeance type of like Simon Says kind of thing.
Yeah,
like,
Simon Says.
I'm gonna play how this goes, very much, channeling a Hans Gruber or whatnot.
Yeah, I felt like a lot of strong Clive Owen from whatever bank heist movie he does with Denzel Washington.
Mm-hmm.
If you've ever seen that movie, the games and the mind games that he plays, very much reminded me of that.
Yeah.
So on a big way, yeah.
But even that, like, okay, so he gets introduced and then immediately just taken out by Matt at the end of the episode, and it doesn't, like, if I recall correctly, he had been introduced previously in some of like the Doc, inter-gang fighting stuff. That he was tied into all of that Fisk stuff, but very loosely and very tangentially. That's another thing is like so much of Daredevil can benefit on the relationship between Daredevil and Fisk, and that's why that first episode, the two of them having that conversation. Great episode, great scene. The black and white gala that you're talking about. The two of them confronting one another. Great episode, great scene. But they're separate from each other the entire rest of the series and doing their own thing, kind of having their own respective falls back into darkness. That meant I was like, I would much rather be watching a show about the two of them more consistently butting heads, or having to confront each other's ideologies versus all of the stuff around them happening that's kind of affecting one another but not directly.
Sure.
So yeah, I ultimately ended up a lot cooler on this, and part of that we talked about. Like, I watched the show those first few weeks. I was watching it kind of episode to episode, like week to week. And then when it was suddenly, I finished the bank episode and was like, oh wait, they dropped 2 episodes today. Mm-hmm. I don't really feel like jumping into a second episode here. Like, I started to watch a little bit of it, saw there was, okay, they're really going back into the Muse stuff on this. Okay, like Muse as a character, and I like that Muse is introduced as like just background news stuff. Hey, there's this, these new, political murals showing up, a la Banksy in the city kind of thing. And that being just kind of like a throwaway thing that like is happening on the side. And then it really kind of like playing into a bigger role over the season. I like that.
Also, I like how his real life persona shows up at the book signing.
Yeah, that was a moment I had, probably like as I was watching the episode 6 there, after so I watched everything week to week, put down after the bank heist episode, went and did my Disney trip and everything, then came back and basically like caught up over the weekend on the last few episodes, and then watched the last episode this week. And there was a moment, when I was watching all that stuff and being like, oh, that's who that guy's going to end up being. Like, the guy in the book signing had very shady, he not going to be a good guy. And so, putting together those like, oh, we're going to find out that's who Muse is. Felt a little clever about like putting 2 and 2 together there. But it was also, that's like, that guy was too much of a character to just be a one and done and not come back to anything.
I wish they'd been a little bit more subtle with him.
Yeah. It also didn't help that like they reminded us of that scene in one of the like previously on Daredevil scenes beforehand.
Just like, I get why they did it, because other people are like, this guy came out of nowhere. We're supposed to know who he is.
Which again speaks to, I think, the jagged nature of like how the series was shaped and framed. All that said, like, there were still some like really cool moments. Like, I loved visually when Poindexter comes back in, and like all of the moments that like everything just closes in on him and turns to blue, and we're basically seeing like the comic panel from his perspective. I loved that visual language that they used. While I didn't necessarily enjoy the things all around it. I thought those were cool moments.
I just love the hyper lethality of Bullseye in the way they realistically get you to feel the hyper lethality of Bullseye without it being like it's definitely superhuman what he does. It's not necessarily super powered or unbelievable, but like we've seen enough. I mean, I've seen enough Jack Reacher. I've seen enough John Wick to see the functionality of like quote unquote peak human performance on that level. And so for him to go tooth, eye, like getting out, like breaking the scissors apart, like everything he's doing that's just so boom, 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 so precise is just beautiful choreography as far as that goes. And then I loved when he was going out to the bus and the guy looks at him and goes, "Oh, tough day." And he kind of just shrugs, and his entire inception, the whole like him going up, the rifle, like getting that ready to shoot Fisk, and it's really, really good, like showing us how a villain feels without telling us how he feels in a way. There's no monologue. There's no conversation aside. It's you screwed me by putting me in Gen Pop. I'm going to kill you. Mm-hmm. You're doing this to protect your wife. I'm going to kill you. It's not there's no deeper thing other than just payback. And I love the simplicity of that.
Yeah. The Poindexter Bullseye violence stuff was definitely a point where I mentioned this to you last night. Like, this is a show because of how hyper violent it was. I often watched like through kind of like my fingers and stuff like that, and I described it as like, this is whenever I hear like British kids talk about how they grew up watching Doctor Who behind the couch. This is one of those shows I feel like, yeah, that's how I was watching this show. I'm like looking down when, very tense moments are happening or very, violent action sequences are happening and stuff like that. I'm just kind of like hearing the show without necessarily going full eyes on the show, because anytime I do go full eyes on the show, I'm like always, oh God, I didn't want to see that. Fuck this show.
Yep. Those moments I go, oh, these are not good Trevor moments.
Yeah. To your point about like Bullseye's peak performance as a person or whatever, I would appreciate that more if I didn't feel like even the Joe Schmoes of this world seemed to be able to survive absurd things. Notably, I'm thinking of Powell, the big main corrupt cop that we see.
Oh, yeah.
Who, tries to just kill Matt Murdock in the episode 2, and we see, like we talked about at the time, like, oh, Matt seems to have very clearly killed these guys.
Yeah.
Like, one of them we see, like, definitely arm breakthrough, but then, like, Powell, he just throws, and we see, like, a head snap, basically. It's like, that guy's not alive. But then he's perfectly fine the next episode. He's a little banged up, and he has some,
the jagged like, edges that you're talking about.
Banter about it with Matt. I'm just like, what? And he continues to, even in, like, some of the stuff with like, Frank and stuff, like, some of them survive very violent acts from either Daredevil or like the fact that we are still led to believe at the end that Daredevil hasn't killed any of these people is like, what? I don't believe that at all, because some of these guys like definitely died. Like even in the bank heist, some of those guys definitely had broken necks and did not walk out of that bank because of how Daredevil was fighting them off and stuff like that. And so it strains credulity when it's like, okay, I'm like, especially in this like hyper vigilante kind of thing, like who are the vigilantes, who are just, bad corrupt cops kind of thing. What sets a vigilante aside, all that stuff. I was not a fan of the blurred lines in some of that stuff in terms of like, oh no, some of these guys should definitely be dead. But they're going to be here as like the, epitome of ACAB stuff for the remainder of the season. And hey, they're still in Fisk's good graces by the end of it all.
Oh, I will also say I do not appreciate, I would have preferred a better cut of Punisher's speech to the cops. I felt that cutting away from it so often lessened the impact of his like disgust with them. I could have used more of that. Also could have used more of a, like, I could have just used a stronger Punisher anti-cop moment.
I mean, there's also this whole weird thing with the vigilante, like of, okay, Fisk is enacting martial law and basically has seemingly authorized like kill on sight orders for these vigilantes. But then we find out he's just got a ton of them in his cages. Like we see Duquesne, another kind of like minimal. Oh, it's that they did a crossover with Swordsman guy from Hawkeye season.
Oh,
1,
did you? So it wasn't just vigilantes in there. It was.
Oh, it was also like
it was political prisoners, like straight up. Like there was a couple of guys that Fisk was looking like he was talking to that he pulled into his side office at the ball.
Yeah.
There's a couple of them that were in the cages too.
I guess like when we see shots of the corrupt task force killing a kid and throwing a mask on him, saying this was a mass vigilante, and they're clearly killing him, but then they let Frank Castle live. I'm like, I don't.
Oh, it's absurd. Absolutely absurd. No. It's absurd. You're right.
Fuck this. And like to Marvel's credit, shout out to them fully going into ACAB on this.
Oh yeah,
far more than I would have ever expected a Disney thing to do.
Absolutely. Also, but also another thing too. It's like, well,
but they also do say like, oh, but look here. As Matt's building up his army of, underground resistance fighters, here's like the 2 good cops that we've seen over the course of the series. They're on his team.
There's also like
all cops.
There's also like an old police clerk lady there too, or something. I don't know. Listen, he found the 3 honest cops in New York City. Yeah. Okay,
and one of them being the hostage negotiator thing from like and just being like, that's the only time like. They didn't interact. Why is she just like on his side or whatever? Like,
doesn't make it's not good.
How are we supposed to know she's one of the good ones or whatever?
Yeah, I'm with you. I hear you 100%. Yeah, no, it is. It when you look at this,
also the like 11th hour turn of like Foggy was clearly a hit. It's like. How was that not assumed from the beginning?
Yeah, that should have been assumed from the beginning.
How did you go through a year of like evidence finding? And I get that you were traumatized, but how did the court system not think, oh, well, lead suspect in the people killing this guy would have been the people that he was just about to potentially win a case against?
Well, also Bullseye killed his client too, like that.
No, he ends up surviving.
Oh, that's right.
He
survives.
Basically, like Daredevil's on his way to him, helps him out, and then
you're right.
And Bullseye kind of goes about. Face,
yeah, it doesn't make any sense. Yeah. I will say that I love the liquor connection. I think that was smart. The whole we get shown at the beginning. Oh, I'm celebrating an early win. The whole back and forth with him and her on that, where they're also like flirting and stuff, and they're like, that's where our attention is. We're not actually paying attention to, obviously, because we don't realize it yet. It's later introduced with the liquor after the Hector Aiello. I don't think
Aiello.
The Hector Aiello, the Hector stuff. And then after that, it's like brought up again, and it's like, oh yeah, no, last person I served this to was Foggy, and it's like, but he had like what was going on. That being the kind of connection I get. Also, I believe that Daredevil would be and this is speaking about like the narcissism of vigilantes in general. Daredevil would be so self-absorbed to believe that he was coming for him. Like it was a personal thing against him, against Matt.
Sure.
I see that being the case more than that. But even then, it's incredulous that would not have
But he didn't think that for a year. He that's a whole other thing.
Oh, that's what I'm saying. I would believe it if that was the case. Yeah. But he doesn't, and they don't set that up well.
Yeah. That's a whole other thing I didn't like about the back half of the season is like they set up this relationship with him and his partner, the doctor, and then that relationship just falls apart through a complete utter lack of communication. Obviously, also the stress of the whole Muse thing and her killing him and taking Muse out.
And also Matt now being a vigilante again is just like, what do you mean you can't say that they're the same?
But it's it's like he is like to an obvious fault obtuse and like refuses to give her any kind of like
she's justified entirely
for why he's being a complete nutcase at the gala and all that stuff. And it's just like, what? Yeah, like, I don't like any of this because this is all incredibly forced screenwriter stuff of like, I need to have these characters in conflict because of reasons. So I'm just going to have them fail at any kind of talking that they've done, all throughout the entire rest of the series and all that stuff. So yeah, I hated a lot of that stuff too. It was just conflict for conflict's sake and to have the like
The
tension
yeah.
of the drama of the dueling dances and stuff like that. And then like I mean there's also this whole like what the fuck is going on? Like does she actually think his whole thing against is like a good like the fact that she signs on to work with Fisk at the end of things
is weird as hell.
Is like this goes against anything you would think of as a doctor and like do no harm and all that stuff. Like what the fuck are you doing becoming his like czar of mental health or whatever? And it's like, and if it's supposed to be that she was so traumatized by her experience with Muse, okay, you didn't give us any chance to
there's no exploration of that.
or come like get that. So yeah, it's just I look at that stuff, I'm like, okay, I clearly see why Disney and Marvel were like, this show doesn't work, we need to bring in some new showrunners and kind of like tweak some of this late series stuff. But then I don't think they fixed everything they needed to fix. And maybe that's the decision to split this up from the original idea of like a big 18 episode season into 2 seasons of 9 episodes so that we've only seen the first half of the story. Maybe all of that is what's hurting this. It's another thing that like I don't like. I also don't like just where this cuts off in terms of like the story they seem to be telling. Of like I'm tired of people being like I will say I don't believe in the like it's just ending mid show or like mid story.
No, I don't believe that. I think that there was a look at the whole arc of it and they said cut it in half. And I really think they're gonna have their work cut out for them to make that second half work.
Yeah,
like there's gonna have to be a lot of work put in for this second half to I think catch up for kind of the quote unquote promise that we got from those first couple episodes. So
yeah.
I like I said, I think it's good. I don't think it's great. I don't think it rises to the level that I was hoping it would towards the end of it. But overall, like I'm happy with it, but also disappointed that it wasn't better. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm glad it doesn't suck.
Yeah.
Like, it could have sucked, I think, very easily. But I think they avoid a lot of those big pitfalls that really would have made it. But, like, yeah, it stretches the imagination of credibility. Credulity?
Credibility.
Okay, yeah, the credibility of, like, the universe and the stakes and everything.
Credulity, I guess.
I think credulity is what I was looking for. Just the idea of, like, the stakes mattering. I'm like, I get the stakes matter. The city's at risk. It has a tyrannical tyrant, or it has a tyrant leading it. A tyrannical tyrant, gosh. But yeah, it is a, like, I'm curious to see where they go going forward. But yeah, it is just an interesting look at, I will say, shout out to Gandolfini, though. His smarmy, douchey, like blanket acceptance and admiration for power and authority growing and being rewarded by the narcissistic tendencies of Fisk is leading up to what I believe will be a very dramatic fall. And I think I like the actor. I like the way he's performing very well.
Yeah.
The character sucks ass. He's a bitch. But I love the actor doing it.
Yeah, that's another one where I'm like I hate the like real world analogies of like, oh, this is like a Stephen Miller or some sycophant who will just like throw away anything that he believes in to support Trump because he's already a shit guy. Like this guy's already kind of like super incel vibes or whatever.
Oh, hard incel vibes.
And is also fucking wildly incompetent and stupid. And that's the biggest thing is like that Fisk doesn't dismiss him or kill him outright after he completely botches and fucks up his plan by leaking whatever stuff to BB in that earlier episode. It's like, instead he's like, no, I'm going to reward your loyalty and whatnot. It's like, I just loathe that. And I like, the show's not giving me
a guy
like,
fail upwards.
I loathe seeing a guy fail upwards in this political landscape and all this stuff. And for the kind of escapism I need from the world right now, I needed somebody to like lose on the Fisk side of things, and nobody does.
Or just see the kid get his ass kicked.
Yeah. And so yeah, like nothing against Michael Gandolfini's like performance or anything like that. He is one of the standouts in terms of that. I just hate I hate how the character's written, and I hate how the other characters are written in response, because it's also like realistically, the chief of staff would have fired him.
Oh yeah,
ages ago, before Fisk even would have had the chance, because of how bad he was and how like incompetent he was in a lot of his stuff.
100%. Yes.
But on that, it was something that I had actually thought about right as you were kind of leading into that. I also hate the like 11th hour reveal that BB Urich knows that Fisk was, the prime suspect of Ben Urich's death. Like I hate that we're like, because it's oh no, that defies everything that we were told in that initial scene with her. Like, she would not have, like, the first scene is a scene shot fully from the perspective of she doesn't know that this is the guy responsible for her uncle's death. And then to come back later on and be like, I know. I've known the whole time. It's like, fucking no, you didn't.
Nope.
like, I mean, that strikes as a rewrite, retcon kind of thing. And I hated that. So yeah, I not a fan of any of that, because the fact that she's clearly also exploiting and milking Gandolfini's, ineptitude. But then once that turns and once he gets the power, she doesn't have the in that she thinks she does. Or is she is there actually like a relationship that she's trying to blossom there? Or is it she's trying to use him the whole time?
It's too gray of and not even gray intentionally.
They don't give us time with it to
grow it. Yeah.
So yeah, not a fan of that stuff.
Nope.
But anyway, diving into the report card, we grade from A+ to F. What do you want to give season 1 of Daredevil Born Again?
I'm gonna give it a B-. I think that it's still like solid throughout, as far as like for even despite the lack of consistency, there's still enough here that kept me wanting to watch. Other than just we're recording this episode, like I was not expecting to watch all the episodes back to back to back, but I did because there was enough going for me. So yeah, overall B-.
Yeah, C for me. Just a straight
Solid.
C. I ultimately, I did not like how much things fall apart and the direction and story of this. It's like it's not a story I want to see, and maybe in a different climate where this isn't hitting as close to home as the real fucking disappearing of people that's happening in the world, and I just like a show like this just makes me mad and scream fuck Trump in my head all the time, and continuing to see fictional characters get away with it while we're seeing real life monsters get away with far worse is like, I don't want any of this.
Hey, I hear you.
Where are our real life superheroes that can put this shit to bed? And they're not happening. I'll even take a real life Frank Castle for this kind of shit at this point.
Yep.
So yeah, not a fan of the series overall, and I don't know if I'll be inclined to come back for season 2 in the same way that I didn't go back to Daredevil season 3. I didn't watch all of the Punisher series because they just hit. It's that mix of hitting too close to home and the hyper violent style of the show just doesn't do it for me. So.
And I think that's totally understandable. Honestly, I think this is a good, reflection of like where you and I are at when it comes to like the violence. Like I can accept that, and there's something I think when violence is done well, there's something artistically beautiful about it to me. And I get that is just like not your vibe, not your casserole. What the hell am I saying? It's just not your deal. But I think that like my B- and your C are like pretty good parallels. So if you're a bit on the squick side of things, like Trevor is, it's probably a C. If you're a little warmer to that idea of, the level of violence that this show has, you're going to be closer to my B-, I think.
Yeah.
So
extra credit, other suggestions. If you like this, we have Daredevil, Punisher, Echo, Hawkeye, She-Hulk Attorney at Law, Andor, The Defenders, and Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. And interestingly, Andor kicked out Miss Marvel that had been in that list.
That's weird.
In the original one. So yeah, of the ones that got kicked out, I'm surprised Miss Marvel was one, given the actual direct link we have to a Miss Marvel character in this. I would have sooner seen that drop from the compared to like the Defenders. But anyway, extracurriculars. What else are you watching on Disney Plus? Did you watch anything else this week, Cam?
No, I literally binged all of the rest of Daredevil, like last 4 episodes of Daredevil, like last night. So,
I caught this weekend the first episode of Doctor Who, or not even this weekend, like so early this week. I caught the first episode of Doctor Who season 2, which dropped over the weekend. Which, like, it was one of those things. I'm like, oh, that's right, Doctor Who has dropped, and it felt like it got so little fanfare and like wasn't even on the front page or something for a little while there on like. It seemed like it got drowned out in the noise, and maybe that was just more so my obsession with blueprints taking up my whole weekend. But
no, I
mean, we were talking about beforehand. You didn't even realize that the first episode of Doctor Who had dropped. So like
when the last time Doctor Who was popping up, even for the holiday stuff in December, there was stuff all over TikTok and stuff that was popping up for it. I have seen very little Doctor Who stuff, which is crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I went ahead and watched that, and that will be we're going to do the first couple episodes of Doctor Who for next week's episode.
Mm-hmm.
The debate we had kind of going into today was, do we want to do Doctor Who, or do we want to try and do the first batch of Andor episodes that drops next week? And it was the like, oh, Andor is probably the thing we're much more interested in, but it's also going to be a bigger lift, and how effectively can we squeeze that in before, recording next week's episode versus when that drops. So we're going to do Doctor Who, and then very likely we will just kind of do a few weeks of Andor for the next few weeks, since they're doing like 3 episodes a week for their 4-week run. So stay tuned for all of that. But that is going to do it for this week's episode of That D Plus Show. Thank you, Cam, for joining me for all of this Daredevil Born Again Season 1 talk. You can follow Cameron at revcabot.bsky.social. Anything you want to give a shout out to there, Cam?
We just did a That Nerdy Site show about, we finally caught up on some games that we've been playing. You talked a bit about Blueprints. I talked about Eternal Strands. Overall, great episode. Fun getting back to actual video games talk. So go check that out.
Yep. You can follow me at trevorjstarkey.bsky.social. In addition to that, we also, the other game we talked about on that episode was Split Fiction, which we have been playing together and doing it as a Let's Play. So we started, we brought back our YouTube Let's Plays for a limited run here. So you can catch, as of now, the first couple episodes. We have a couple more episodes, of course, will be dropping next week. Go check out all of that over on the youtube.com/thatnerdysite. And like I said, next week's episode of That D Plus Show will be these first couple episodes of Doctor Who Season 2, which is going to be, what was this first one called? I forget what the first one called was. The next one's going to be called Lux. But yeah, basically the first 2 episodes of Season 2 of Doctor Who. You follow all of us over at That Nerdy Site, or go to thatnerdysite.com for all the latest from us. Once again, if you liked what you heard, please like, rate, review, subscribe, share the podcast with your friends, all that fun stuff. Thank you for joining us. As always, stay nerdy and be good to each other. Class dismissed.